that's what's up.
And I'm like,
Good morning, and welcome to Dualitea. I'm your host, Ash, and I'm here with Genesis. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a long time coming, and I'm grateful to have you here today. You know, we were just talking right before the countdown went down. We were just talking about hair and, like, expressions of our hair and, like, how when we're trying to invoke different moods and different energies, you know, we tend to change our hair, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, for me, I just changed my hair to this because it's the integration. I'm going to dye my hair dark again. But my hair was bright red, and before it was bright red, it had blonde in it, and it was like a whole mix of things. So that's what I'm giving, you know, is like what is the in-between, you know, to actually gracefully transition into something rather than going from one extreme to the next. So that's what my hair is embodying right now. I know you were beginning to tell me what yours is, if you would like to express.
I mean, I feel that where I am in my life right now, I need to go through like a fine comb through my life. Mm-hmm. And when I get like this, I really don't like to show it or express it to anyone. However, I was carrying these long braids for like 5 months with 5 months of tragedy and all that stuff. So when I took it off, I wanted something a little more subtle. I wanted something that, you know, a little lighter just to change the scene. And when I got this on midway, I'm like, no. However, like you said, like finish, see it through. And here I am just
looking beautiful as ever.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm just trying to, you know, hang it on by a thread.
I think it's like, you know, I think that there's a healthy balance between like finding the dynamics and making these physical appearance changing. And, you know, it's kind of like something that we do for a living. So, you know, touching base on that aesthetic is like, you know, that it's more than just skin deep. You know, when you're working in aesthetics in that field and you're working on doing facials and you're doing these different things, like you're working to cure already things that have been coming up, you know, whether it's past blemishes or current blemishes and, you know, to heal. And I feel like, you know, I feel like majority of women that I meet or just people that I meet in the industry tend to have that connection with like healing things, you know, on a deeper level. And it's something that's really beautiful because we're learning how to love ourselves in our purest state, like without any makeup, without anything, like without any additions of anything else. That's like in its core, I feel like what it is. I think it's such a beautiful thing.
I, on the other hand, feel that there's options. Exercise them. You know, you have hair that's not yours, but if you buy one, it's yours. Let's just put it out there. Second of all, if you want to do something and you want to express yourself, we weren't born with a manual that we're supposed to be this certain way. Go ahead, do you, man. Aesthetic is more than skin deep. Aesthetic is a mindset. And if you really look at it, everyone has a perspective. Allow that space for everyone and yourself. And just girl, sorry, I talk a
No.
lot.
No, you're good. This is why you're on the podcast. You know, this is a two-way conversation.
This is like, beautiful.
I'm happy you like it. You know, every morning we do a different tea every Wednesday. So today we're doing a little Earl Grey joint with some local honey. You know, shout out to Beezy Bees. So yeah, I absolutely agree. And like even aesthetics in the sense of like makeup artists. Some cosmetologists also like are aesthetics or, you know, they work in that field in general. And, you know, there is the layers of like taking things away to heal them and then also adding things to heal them. Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't my natural hair color, you know, and I'm doing something that's different because that's where I feel like I'm at. And it's like the colors that I'm feeling at this time. I said that I want a warm color palette for the rest of this year.
And it's gorgeous.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're serving, giving it.
You know, I think it's really cool when we all get to express ourselves in these different ways, you know. And, you know, I feel like it's also important to tune in when we feel like we want to change something. Like, it's like, oh, I need to change my hair. I need to change my makeup style. Like, if we give it space, we can be like, well, what else are we trying to change? Like, what is coming out? You know, what is showing up for us? Because sometimes we're just like, oh, I need to get piercing. I need to get tattoo. I need to change my hair, you know, but we're not like, all right, well, what's going on the inside. And it's not to like get absolved by it, but I feel like it's supportive in the transition, because if you're like, yo, I want to embody this, and then you go and you change it, like sometimes you feel like you might not even want to change something externally because you're changing something internally, but sometimes it goes hand in hand where you're like, all right, I'm working on this, so let's push it to the outside.
Absolutely, I agree. You know, like I mentioned before, it's definitely the mind first, because you'll never feel that peace you're looking for when you're changing. But if you can, you know, once you do it with the right intention, and you create a trail of this, you create that mindset of the aesthetic. It's not something that looks cool and looks cute for anyone. You know what I'm saying? It's deeper than that. And yeah.
No, for sure. For sure. I completely agree with you. And, you know, to get on to the topic of what this podcast, you know, what we were talking about the other day in the lab, you know, just like we say all these different things, you know, that we want. And we might pray for them. We might scream them from a mountaintop. We might write it down in a journal every night. You know, if you're into the woo a little bit, you know, maybe putting it on an altar, or like writing down affirmations about it, whatever the case is, manifestation. But then it comes, right? And are we always in the mindset for it? And if we are or we aren't, like, how can we navigate that space?
My personal experience is this. My mom told me something one time, and when I first heard it, I got upset until I really understood what she was trying to say. My mom's my best friend, by the way. And she's like, Jen, you know, you always have to go through the bad to know what's good. And I'm like, in my mind, like, what are you talking about? I'm doing the best I can, like, stressing it. Until I realized, like, I then realized I wanted it that way. Like, I invited me effing up a few times. No, this is not going to work. No, this is not going to work. Until I was ready, because after that point, I was more determined. I was more confident. I came from experience. Like, I was just more dedicated. And to me, that's so important to know how to pick yourself up and how to navigate that, because you can easily stay down there. Mm-hmm. And especially with the line of work that we're in, it's really what people trying to say, but yet you have people like us saying it's not. And it really isn't, because at the end of the day, we all die. Mm-hmm. But if you have this, and think about aesthetic, for me personally, I think about aesthetic like a drawing or like something that moves me. It can be a scent, it can be a drawing, it can be a person I see, it can be a color I see. Like, that is what makes the aesthetic of what Jen aesthetic is, because it's like, you know, and if it wasn't for the lows, if it wasn't for me to understand like the bad part of things, I wouldn't know how to appreciate the good and know how to cultivate it and give it, you know, design it how I'd like it to be, if that's the right tone. Yeah. The terminology.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Spanish, by the way, so yo hablo español, mi amor. So perdóname si yo no sé hablar. Tú sabes que mi español es muy ratatá.
Oh, you're funny. No, but yeah, like, I completely agree. Like, that's the ebb and flow. Like, that's like, you know, shout out to your mom for passing on that wisdom.
Shout out to my mom. Real, like, Mom, Josie in the building.
To be able to appreciate one spectrum, we need to understand the other. You know, it's like in order for us, like, would good things even be good if we didn't experience bad? You know, because it would just be neutral. It would just be norm. So you wouldn't have nearly the amount of reactions to.
And there's beauty
things.
In it.
Absolutely.
I really, like I said, when my hair is calling me out, I really like love the crap first. Like, give it to me raw, what's going on, what's up and the down, because with every problem, there's a solution. So to me, in my mind, it's like, okay, challenge accepted. Mm-hmm. Where are we going next? What of this? Yeah. I really do appreciate life. I know every time we link up, we have such like beautiful and deep discussions that we're like, we need to get on this podcast to like express it. I really hope you guys feel the energy and the experience of communication, of just communicating, and man, it's so beautiful when you find somebody that you can have a good conversation with and go back and forth, and you just are on a brighter page, like, on a brighter like, you know what, we could do this, like, you know, it's not what I feel, it's not bullshit, it's real. And there's other people who feel like that, so it's like, once you combine, man, I just want to like thank you so hard from all of me. Thank you from like walking into my life to this day. Like you shed some light to where I felt embarrassed, and I'm becoming, you know, and becoming, and you're like, girl, you got this. It's like, Ash, stop, because at this point, like, shout out to your man, because it's like, your woman, sorry.
It's okay. No, for real, it's a beautiful thing when you get to meet people that you resonate with, and also be able to be in a position where it's like you have these real conversations and you uplift one another. You're like, yo, I'm feeling this way, you're feeling this way, how do we get here? You know, it's not about like how do we get here, it's about acknowledging where we're at first, and then bringing in that realness and that authenticity, that vulnerability to be like, yo, like, this is everything I wanted, and why do I feel like I'm not worthy of it? You know what I mean? Like, why do I feel like I don't deserve? Why am I afraid? Where is this coming from? You know, like, I know for myself, like, I have perfectionistic tendencies. So, like, I'll pray for something, and then it'll show up, and then I'm like, how do I go about this? And, like, I feel like with certain circumstances and certain situations, like, so even such as, like, the podcast, like, yo, I know the only reason this podcast exists the way it does is, well, there's many different layers. You know, there's the Ariel layer, the Nev layer, there's the Kenny layer, and there's the me layer, right? That came up and was like, yo, Kenny, if we don't do this live, I'm never going to post these shits. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, because I know when I'm sitting there and I'm editing it and I'm like, every I say, every weird gulp from my tea, like, and I'm just nitpicking all of these different things. I know it won't see the day light of day. But I know that if I just be like, yo, listen, what is the intention? The intention was always like, let's keep it a buck, let's be raw, let's be authentic. So what is more raw and authentic than doing something live?
Oh my gosh. And you know how I came out? With my hair. Because I was always told that my hair wasn't qualified. I wasn't good enough. I got this big afro going on. I'm like, oh, let me perm it, let me straighten it, let me keep it this way. Honestly, I love it because your girl looked good. However, it kept me kind of like locked in a certain way, because I wasn't expressing my true self until I came out and I'm like, this is me. If you don't like it, get out of here. Like if you're not able to stand in the room when I'm trying to be vulnerable, stand out, like, be myself, then get out.
Then it's not the room to be in.
And after that point, I feel like I'm able to just be more comfortable with things that embarrasses me, that inspire other. Like, girl, look at your hair. Girl, I had posted something and I'm like, I haven't taken off these braids for 3 months. I have brothers and they're very protective. Oh, why would you post this? Oh, why would you do that? However, I got girlfriends hitting me up like, girl, I'm not taking mine off till you take yours off. Like, you've given me hope. Like, okay, if she can make it last, if she's doing it, I can do it too. And that's who I'm here for. I'm not here for the manual people who got it all together. I'm here for the people that's trying to get it together, that's in the midst of, that's in the line of war, that's just ready to rock on with whatever they have. I'm your girl. Sign me up.
Yeah. Because it's the real. At the end of the day, even the people who seemingly have it all together are still in a process of learning. And if people don't have the capacity to accept or acknowledge that, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing better or less than. It's just not necessarily the people I want to surround myself with.
Yeah. And I don't want to down you fellers. I don't. However, there's room to express yourself. Just find your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just it's finding your way and getting out of your own way, like getting out of your own way to be scared. You know, we're all scared to express ourselves.
But
like,
what's the real fear? Like, how we're perceived. Someone, you know, but you know what's so crazy that I understand now. It just hit me like, okay, people were afraid, and the fear was that, the town used to come for you, throw rocks at you.
Mm-hmm. If you weren't complying. Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
I'm like, I would have never hit 15 if I lived in that stage, because I was the same girl at 15. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to kill me. And I have 5 brothers, so I always said I don't fight girls. I don't fight, period. But in my mind, I don't. And I don't fight girls. So it's like, I'm swinging at every man, woman, dog.
But at the end of the day, it's all about holding your own and protecting yourself and what you believe in. Yeah. You know, and that's where it comes from. Yeah. And you know, some people don't believe in that because they don't understand that way. Everybody expresses their passions in different ways. Some people are more aggressive about their passion. I know personally, I'm very aggressive about my passion. I have to constantly check myself and like take a breath because I'll be going in, and I'm like, all right.
I'm so aggressive that I'm aggressive with your stuff.
Like, this is you're like, no. We need to do this right now. It's not a bad trait.
I need to know how to like soften my touch. But you just
realize it when you notice it, and it's just like also being around people who'll be like, I love you, but I'm not trying to do that right now.
Like, okay, and I'm like trying to like, all right, that's not what we're doing. Do it your way. And
because there's a balance between, you know, being encouraging and motivating, and then being pushy. And it's like, that's a balance that I constantly have to find too. Because if you ask any of my loved ones, I could just definitely come off pushy at times, when really my intention is just like, I love you. I want to see you doing amazing.
So hard.
Can I help you do this? Or okay, I can't. Okay, what can I help support you to support yourself doing it? You know, there's always a way that I'm trying to find. And, you know, sometimes people aren't used to that kind of support, so it's jarring. You know, it takes a little bit for them to integrate to it, because it's like the people around them may have never supported them in that way. So it's almost like an attack. It's like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, I'm not even used to that.
I'm learning, because it's like, you can't tell someone like me, if I'm your friend, that you want something bad enough, because I am going to be like, okay, if you even have a discussion about what it is you want, you're in the right way. You're paving your steps. However, if you're like, oh, I want to do this, and then you just don't even have that conversation, I'm your friend, right? I'm gonna be like, hey, that don't go with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And if you feel some type of way over time, because again, I think friendship needs to be like defined all the time.
Of course. And that's accountability.
Yeah.
Though. But that's really like, you know, and at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't feel comfortable with the amount of accountability, it's up to them to vocalize that.
So if you're mad at me, all my friends and future friends and current friends, if you tell me something, hey, Jen, I want to start, the big one, I want to start losing weight. I'd be like, okay, right? I'm going to tell you who I am. I'm that weird girl who wants to do it with you. So it's like, okay, we on this. Like, we're going to do it. What do we have to do? No, girl, let's not eat this. Or, girl, or. But I know what consistency is. Because, again, in my mind, I'm paving to the goal. So if tomorrow I'm like, hey, girl, you up with that tea? And you're like, you're going to be mad. Mm-hmm. In your own place, and then I'm gonna keep going. And I think this is wrong of me, and I'm gonna put it out there, that way I can fix myself. If I have a competitive attitude, that's just me. And if you tell me, Jen, we have to hit that mountain, as a team player, you rest, I'm lifting us. I rest, you lifting us. But the moment I feel like you're dragging, I know that I can get easily into like this depression stage of I'm not worthy. That's why it's not working for me. Or I have a fine line to nah, by any means necessary. Mm-hmm. By any means necessary, you got to do it. And I keep going, and that separates that really do separate people from people.
But at the end of the day, that's you honoring yourself, and that's you not abandoning yourself for someone else. And that's a big thing. And I don't think you need to correct that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's something that's a beautiful establishment that you've created for yourself within your own vehicle, to be like, yo, this hurts. I don't want to see you laying there.
No.
I did my best to carry you on my back, but I got to keep going.
Yeah, I'm a
because
Taurus
at the end of the day, like, you keep going, and then someone's going to look at you in the distance, and that might still be the motivation for them to get up. But you sitting with them is not going to be, because they need to sit with themselves. Because they could be sitting there, but they're not actually sitting with themselves.
Amen to that, girl.
You know, just finding every distraction or every situation, every reason to be everywhere but within their own mind, you know, nurturing their own feelings, which is obviously a coping mechanism, and there's compassion for it. We can empathize with human beings, but to sympathize to the way that we're being self-sacrificial to ourselves and our own goals is not okay. And if they love you, they wouldn't want that for you either.
Like, don't get me wrong. You can have an off moment. I'm with you. Express what triggered you, you know? What is it? If you're open enough to talk to me about it, I'm here. However, if you're not, ask yourself these questions, because that's what really matters. Like, all right, you know, the simple fact that I haven't really been checking on my health, that got, you know, that's a weight. The simple fact that I don't feel comfortable enough to open up myself to people, that to me is a personal thing. You know, like, I don't know if I'm going to be comfortable sharing with you things that I know I need help with. And being a provider, I have to call myself out. Like, there's so much options. That word to me means so much, because I don't like being restrained in any way. I don't want to have one way to go. No. Put it all on the table. I'm going to see where I'm going to go. And that is why I'm like, all right, then I can do this. Or I'm able to go, you know, see a stranger and have him check my stuff out. You know what I'm saying? However,
it's about meeting ourselves where we're at, meeting others where they're at. It's like the adaptation. Like, you might want to, you know, run a mile in a minute, but you're going to have to start with learn to be okay with 10, learn to be okay with 5. Like, you have to, you know, adapt your goal to make it something that's realistic, or else you're just going to beat yourself up for never completing something that wasn't even in your line of view.
You know, not to interrupt your go south, but I really want to stress out how important the mindset is. You know, with that same thing I told you that my mom tells me, oh, you got to go through the bad to know the good. I was told by somebody that I looked up to, and I don't have really a lot of people. However, I was talking to this doctor, and he was telling me certain things, and you know, he kind of like told me off the most nicest way. He's like, you know, it's all right, because it's a mindset. People aren't born like that. It's a mindset. And I'm at my head like, you know, you're not going to disrespect me on cue. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to come at me saying that is a mindset. And I'm going to tell you something. I was raised by immigrant parents. And like, we had this discussion. Everything that they had and they got, they still have to this day. I wasn't brought up on saving money. I wasn't brought up on good credit. I wasn't brought up on Roth IRA. However, from the trails of what I've been doing, I know that I haven't been doing right, because I wasn't saving money and I wasn't caring about a credit, and I didn't care. I didn't care about these things. But now, looking at the option that it brings, I want to exercise all of my options in this life. I don't want to go, you know, half. And it is a mindset. Waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym, studying, going to your office, opening up the doors consistently. Throughout any weather, every storm, you're going and you're focusing and you're putting your intentions out, and you're giving yourself the opportunity to express yourself, and you're cultivating this mindset. That to me is the most powerfulest thing ever. If we can have this whole podcast about mindset, I think it would do both of us a service and our listeners, because that is our freest estate. No one's here buying this property yet, because it's happening. So if we got this, like you said, we can close our eyes and walk through this table. That gave me so much hope. I'm like, I can do this. This is nothing. I'm walking through walls.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that created because we were sitting there cultivating that. I never even thought of it like that. I was like, I read this thing in a book, and then I looked at it and I was like, wait, we could just close our eyes and walk through the table. We could just close our eyes and put ourselves somewhere. Through.
And you know what? I want to also jump in here and give a shout out to my boy, Dean Marlin. He is one of my friends that I met in Staten Island. Super large guy. I would never think to be friends with this guy. That is pro-life. Like, this guy is literally a person that can put you in a better financial state of being for the future. Because I'm thinking about 40-year-old Genesis. I'm thinking about 50-year-old Genesis. Mm-hmm. I told you, we're going to be doñas. There's no way you're going to be 50 and we ain't fluent. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm thinking about all this. So I definitely want to give a huge shout out to him because he has given... How do I put this into words? He brought your girl out into Staten Island community, and he's shown me the beautiful part of it. And I see what people say, oh, the ugly, the beauty. There's always beauty, even in ugly. Some people just have different perspective. I come from the bottom. I'm Dominican. Soy Latina. Soy de Santo Domingo, la capital, Santiago, Punta Cana, toda esa gente para allá. Un saludo también. So I definitely want to make sure that good people need to be brought out. You know what I mean? Good people need to show. So Dean Marlin, I know, man, there's powers in names. There's power in shouting people out. I appreciate you, my brother. You really helped your girl out. You know, you introduced me to beautiful people that are about mental health and also, service above themselves. So that's major. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the whole mindset concept. Like, that's kind of like, you know, the title of this podcast is called You Ready, and it's like the only way you can be ready is if your mindset's ready.
If your mind, but you know, like your girl, I gotta go through the bullshit to be like, all right, I'm sick of this. What's else? That's okay. You know, I'm going through it. Everyone's going through it. As long as you don't stay stuck. Comfort is the enemy here. If you're comfortable, now take a break, right? Rest. But if you get comfortable, it's starting to feel lukewarm. That gets me nauseous.
You got to start being comfortable with getting uncomfortable, because that's the only process in growing. You know, every single thing in nature, which we are a part of nature. And we got to remember, like, to go through our metamorphosis, you know, it's going to look like we're a caterpillar going into a cocoon and coming out and growing wings. Yeah. Like, there's a process, you know, there's a process in a seed breaking open in order to create life, and being in the darkness and then coming out and finally seeing light, and then being so, like, delicate too. Anything could step on you and rip you up.
Yeah, everything
but
is
you
beautiful.
Gotta keep growing. You gotta keep growing. And the deeper you plant your roots, the higher you can grow. And it's just about knowing where you come from. You know, I think that's really important too. You touched on the fact, like, you know, we're both first generation with our parents being immigrants, you know what I mean? And like, and you know, when you're first generation in this country, you know, there's a lot of different things that come with that, you know, like you were saying, not really knowing about saving money or credit, or, you know, everything that they had, that they came here with, they still have. It's like, that's something that I feel like I'm constantly reevaluating and looking at, but I feel like in the past I've looked at it and been like, this is a weight. Once I realized it was a problem and it wasn't helping me go forward, I'm like, this is a weight. And when I was looking at it as a weight, and I was like, all right, well, this is like a 300-pound weight, and I don't have the capacity to move it yet. So then I had to work out and flex and flex and flex. And while I'm learning to work out and flex and I'm moving it little and little and little, I can't expect to be aware that a 300-pound weight is in my way to move forward and think that I'm just going to move it out the way. Because even if someone helps me to move it out the way, it could still come back. And then when I'm by myself, what can I do about it? So it's about creating that resistance, building that strength. And, you know, that could look mental, emotional, and physical and spiritual. You know, it's a whole process. So in finding that and in doing that, you know, we're healing generational, you know, traumas, and also one of the things that I think has been one of the harder things for me to come to terms with, it's not that like, you know, like our family, our parents, you know, they literally have done the best with what they have and they did amazing. You know what I mean? And I have to look and remind myself, like, just because this is the status quo doesn't mean that I can't break through that ceiling. And in that process, like, I could give my mother something to look forward to. You know, I could give my family like things to look forward to and be like, yo, I could put you onto this. I actually learned about this in finances. It like, I don't need to wait to be susceptible to the world just because I wasn't giving these tools. Like, you know, and even if I don't naturally acquire them, if I'm not the best mathematician, like at least I can understand the surface and then find someone who can navigate that for me, you know, and work with it in that way. I just feel like there's this false narrative, like as if once we become aware of these traumas or these situations or these things that stand in our way, whether it's like what we were talking about on a generational note, or if it's just something that's come up in our own life, in our own way, that we've realized that it's materialized in front of us and we're like, fuck, like this is what's blocking my doorway, you know, this is what's the lock on the door, you know. And instead of just being like, all right, well, I'll just break down the door. It's like, well, if you just listen to yourself, you'll be able to find the key. So then you can walk in and out whenever you please, not just have a gaping hole in your house, you know?
Yeah.
So
I'm with you, sis. I mean, how I cope is for that 300 weight of things, truth be told, I toss everything out. I don't care. Oh, this is a weight. Okay, I'm letting it sit. I'm letting it sit. And I know my issues. I know that I know that I need to do in the work. I'm like, F that. Goodbye. I don't even want to deal with it. I don't want nothing. Everything that was that weight, even if it's sentimental things, it became a weight. It no longer served its that's it. You did your time. I love you, but you got to go. I take the biggest garbage construction bag that you can find. I put everything in there and I toss it. Sorry. And how I deal with it, because look at now. I'm going through a situation that requires resilience. How can I toss this? No, I have to be able to know how to take gut punches and with grace. You understand? Because that's the energy I'm putting out to the gut punch. And just, you know, it's if you don't know how to deal with it, it will continue to come back. My coping mechanism is I toss it. What don't work is dead. And though there's light in situations, everything has its time. So when it hit that time and you're not serving, I'm not going to pick and be like, okay, I can add value to this. I can add, no. Goodbye.
Sometimes easy. You just have to. Sometimes you really just have to throw everything away or toss everything to, you know, I feel like I struggle with that because I don't want to accumulate more waste. Like, I'm always like, all right, like, where can I donate this? Like, who can I get in touch with? And then that whole process of finding where things can go ends up like now you're sitting with stuff in your car. And it's like, you know, there's a time and space to give our...
I'll help you pack all your stuff and toss it.
Yeah, but like there's certain things I'm gonna donate. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things I'm okay with just.
All right, keep it like this is cute.
Yo, it's like there's certain things like I have right now. I have a bag with stuff that I'm throwing out. I'm like, this is not good for nobody. Like this just needs to go. And then I have a bag like, you know, I was like the baby of my family, so I always had like older cousins and like older sisters that would give me garbage bags full of clothes, and that was it for me. I was so hyped. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like look at all this stuff. So I'm like, for my little nieces and stuff, I'm packing some bags for them so that they can have that and pass it along.
You're beautiful for that.
It's just tradition, you know what I mean? Like I remember how excited I was to be like 10, 11 years old, like, you know, 12, 13, like in those awkward stages of like just growing and being a human.
I was ashy.
Yo, it's like...
shout out to Sharon. I'm gonna need you to fix this, girl. I'm seeing lines. No, honestly, I hear you. And to that, like, I have my moment with it, but I release. Because I don't want to stick into that muggy feeling, like that cloud over me.
Oh, like let me keep it. What can I do with it? How can I fix it?
My cousin gave it to me, and this was her first dress, and she died. And
there's a middle ground.
There's
a middle ground.
Boom.
Because at the end of the day, nothing's going to take away your memories, you know? And I do think that there's a middle ground because I do find sentimental value with different things. I'm just learning how to navigate and keep it at bay where it's like fucking calm and like, here's 5 things that are sentimental, not like 25, you know? And it's like for example, you know, we're talking about embarrassment. We're talking about keeping things, talking about this stuff. Like, I have this pair of pants. There was an event here the other day. I have this pair of pants I was wearing, and I love them. It was hot, and they were pleather. And I went to go pick something up, and those shits ripped, right? So they ripped, and I had to go home and get changed. So I have this pair of pants, and it was the first time. Oh, they ripped right in my butt.
Oh, it was a whole crack.
It was a whole thing. Yeah. They like right where my thigh meets my butt. Like,
okay, so you couldn't even design it to make it cute.
I could actually, like, you know, this is where we're at, right? Okay. So this is like
toss it.
So I have them literally. They're right next to the garbage. They're not in the garbage. They're right next to the garbage. And I decided earlier this morning, I'm just tossing them. Because, like, I can. Like, but I'm going to take my loss. Even though it was the first time I wore them, whatever the case is, I could put a patch on them. If they ripped, then they were already too cheap. That was the first thing I ever got from Fashion Nova in my life. I'm never buying from them again. Like, straight up, like, they are the fact that they even got the fact that you guys shouldn't even get like a shout out on my pod because y'all had horrible customer service. But anyway, to keep it pushing,
No, that hit me more than your drip jeans. They don't respond to you.
It was a whole thing. It was the first time I don't really online shop. So I was trying to navigate different sizes. And it's like certain things fit me and I like them. But I bought a lot of things thinking I can return it, like, you know, like because it's online, right? So I checked. I'm like, okay, I can return these amount of days. Cool, no problem. And then like after the fact, it was like, well, these are final sales. So they can't. I'm like, well, like that didn't say that beforehand. So like, anyway.
I can't wait for your yard sale. With your new thing.
Yes, I have a lot of things that I'm going to be putting to my yard sale. So that's coming up. Stay tuned. If you're local on Staten Island or New York City or New Jersey and you want to pull up, it's not just me. It's a community yard sale we'll be doing here at Hub 17. We'll have refreshments and good music, and it's just going to be a bunch of different people. We're figuring out the dates right now, so stay tuned for that. But it's going to be really nice. It's going to be really dope and like a fun time too. Like we made these really good, Lori and I made these like, I've been obsessed with lavender lemonade for a while. So then we were just making these like different concoctions. It's so good. It's like a healthy refresher, you know, from that big coffee company that we don't mention their name. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, point of bringing all that to the surface is like, that was a moment where I was like, okay, like, I just need to cut my losses. Like, I just need to do that. And it's like, that's the same thing we have to do with our mind. And our mindset is like, sometimes we get anxious or nervous about certain things in certain circumstances where we're like, okay, well, should I do it like this? Or it needs to look like this. And it's like, it's okay to cut back on those too. It's okay to let go of those tactics that we have in our brain that consume us. Like maybe we don't need that so much. Maybe we can throw those out too, because if it's hindering us from moving forward and growing, just like physical things, as like our physical reflects our mental. Yeah. So if I'm feeling physically clogged, I'm mentally clogged. Yeah. You know, if I can't get rid of certain things, it's because mentally I'm holding on to things. So how can I continue to make space? Like, how can you continue to make space and get your mind right? Because if we, like I always said this, like, you know, when we're lighting smudge, you know, and I want to say this with discernment for, you know, I'm not advocating for the common commercial use of sage and different sacreds that really should be taught about before used. You know, but every culture has their own smudge. Even if you were to go into your backyard, you can, like, you know, ask your cedar tree for a little bit of cedar, something that's accessible and something that, you know, you can work with, dry out, and then put on a piece of charcoal and work with that medicine, learn a little bit about that and those plants around us. But anyway, I digress on that. Something I always say, if you're using an herb that's cleansing, you need to use an herb that is sweet after, right? So if you light the smudge, like the sage, the cedar, the copal, whatever the case is, and then after you light the sweetgrass. Because if you're going to get rid of energy, you're getting rid of negative energy, you're getting rid of negative things in your life or things that are taking up too much space. Now, when you light that sweetness, you're inviting, right? Because if you don't invite something in the place where you get rid of something, same shit's just gonna come right back.
The same energy.
Same thing is just gonna come right back. When you create space, you either say this space is for space or this space is for this new thing I want here. One or the other. If you don't claim that, 9 times out of 10, the same thing just comes back in a different shape, you know? And then you just like, all right, well, this isn't what I was going for, you know? So it's just about like becoming aware, you know, and educating ourselves. Because a lot of us don't do better because we don't know better. So if you feel like you're running through the same cycle, go educate yourself. Maybe put yourself in positions, in places, in spaces where you're talking to people where you don't necessarily feel comfortable. You shouldn't feel like the smartest person in the room. You're going to have to find a bigger room, you know? And
if you're the smartest in the room, go to the next room.
Mm-hmm.
We work vertical, not horizontal.
Wait, we work in a spiral. That shit is going everywhere.
I'm going up from here.
You know, it's like
I'm ready for success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all. Yeah. Hey, and I want to mention to you that with everything that's going on in the world, and I think it's gonna jump into what you were saying. With everything that's happening in the world and what we're at and what moon stage and whatnot. You know, I was thinking about, like, that whole rebranding and that whole thing and whatnot. Girl, I executed yesterday. Like, it's a thing.
Okay.
And I couldn't feel scared, relieved, and, like, or I was, like, doubting in one moment. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I didn't really need to. Or, so I'm just so happy that I went. And that's what I'm trying to get to is just, like, you don't know until you put yourself in there. Like, you don't know until you said, you know what, this is enough and this is going to change. Yeah. Because even if it's the same cycle again, my friend, you're going to go through this cycle so many times, you're going to get tired of yourself. And you're like, you know what? I invite it. Come. Mm-hmm. I'm used to this. Oh, this is what's next? You start laughing like crazily because it's like, all right, at this point, bring it. I tried every way. I tried to sing in every way. I cried. I loved. I was smiling. I danced it. And this is it. Bring it. Because at the end of the day, we weren't brought into this world to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. I don't know who told us that. And it's funny because I like being comfortable. Of course. I like the setting of comfort. Mm-hmm. I don't like being comfortable. Because then it's like, all right, what's next? Yeah. And at heart, I'm a warrior. At heart, I'm a fighter. I fight for what I love. I do. Do I fight for me? I'm learning how to now. I'm learning how to put some pressure on myself. But I'm definitely the one in the team that will hit first. I'm the hype man of the team too. I'm your biggest cheerleader. If I know it's something you love, I know what it is. I know what it feels like to love something. So I'm going as hard for you. And it's not common. However, I see how there's a bunch of scenarios, a bunch of people who wanted me to be a certain way, who wants me to be, you know, more sassy and more just like ugly to me because it's not who I am. I'm soft. I'm a country girl. Like, I love love. I love God, and I'm gonna stick to what I know, and I'm gonna stick to who I love. And anything that comes like disrupting that wave for me won't even get the energy. I won't even I'm like, you know what? No, but once you cross me, you lost me, and I love you. However, no.
Yeah, no, it's grace.
Yeah, I love movies.
It's grace. For real though. Like, cause that's to not engage with things that we know or just like, this doesn't feel good. Yeah. And but to move in grace where it's like, yeah, that's not for me. But thank you.
But yeah.
You know, but thank you.
I'm learning how to cause you know, I love Ashley. So when she's like, I'm good, I'm like, you sure? Like, cause I have to say it again, like, you sure? I think so if I ever question you, it's not to question you, it's to reassure myself. Mm-hmm. So
no,
future sorry.
No, you're good. Like, that's the thing. Once again, like we were touching on before, it's like the way we are, the only thing we can control is ourselves. Yeah. If someone or something, despite the good intention, bad intention, lack of intention, if something we are okay with, we're okay with, you know, or something we're not okay with, we can address it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a big girl. Like, if I don't like something, I'm gonna tell you. Good. Respectfully. And like, if I love something, I'm gonna tell you.
I
you
love that. I need raw. Yeah, I need,
because that's me honoring myself and knowing my boundaries at the end of the day. So it's like, if you're over here, I know when you say to me, like, if I'm like, nah, I'm okay, and you're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm really not okay, but like, I'm not really ready to talk about it in the moment. I know that you're over here, you care. You know what I'm saying? Because people will take that fine and they'll just be like, all right, cool, that's fine. I don't need to spend more time on that. So with that knowing, you know, is there anything else that you wanted to get into before we?
Yeah, I just wanted to take it out of my chest. So I came here in Staten Island 2018, and I never looked back from the Verrazano Bridge. I never cared for it. I never cared about what Staten Island really had or what was going on in here. However, having a business of caring and just who I am, it made me look inside of Staten Island, and I was blessed to find you, Ashley, and other people around me that is pro-life, that is pro-health, pro-caring. And I say this all the time. I'm a foreigner to Staten Island. I am. But I'm a people person. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if there's an event that they're handing out turkeys, I'm there. I don't have to be, or what zip code. That to me is energy that it's like, it's not real. It's like, it's irrelevant. And I came out here with the best intentions to grow. So that's why I changed from my artistic solo name to a bigger name. However, when I got into the bigger name, as a team player as I am, it wasn't with the people who really had the best intentions for me. Now, this whole podcast, you hear me saying I'm pro you, pro you, pro you, but if it's not for me, it's like it hurts more than a breakup.
You gotta be pro you too.
So that's why I was talking to you about like rebranding and having like a name that meant something and the theory behind it, you know? So I definitely want to give, sorry, but I look at how I'm like, excuse me, but I definitely want to give myself a shout out for moving forward and not sticking to where I didn't like to be. The name of the, I want to say hub now, like the name of the club hub. It's called Renew Wellness. And it's simply that. There you can find everything you need to renew yourself from in and out. And a place we can feel proud of renew, that is major. And I had to like bounce it off Ashley's mind. Like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? We went through a few names that really didn't resonate with who we are and what we wanted to bring out to you know, Staten Island. And you know, everybody needs a place to start over. Everybody needs a place to regain themselves and renew and rebalance and regenerate and everything. So I am looking forward to moving forward in that light. And I can't wait for everyone to be a part of it. Honestly, it's not something that I made for me or for just us. This is a whole thing for everyone. Live one moment of your life. Like, give yourself one shot. Like, go for it. And we're standing in that line waiting for you and with you throughout the entire process. So shout out to us.
Right, shout out to us and shout out to you and congratulations
on making that decision. That was a us thing. That I had to think about the team, you know. It wasn't just like a me thing. 'Cause I would have called it Genesis and God bless it. Like, all right. But no, I don't want to be alone in this. This is not just for me. Like, all these things is just not for personal use. So, renew. Wellness.
That's what's up. I'm so happy and congratulations.
Thank you. You're welcome. You were there. Yeah. You are. Can't even look at you. This girl made me cry.
Well, before we conclude, I wanted to also give you a shout out and give you some flowers.
Thank you.
In that way of like, you know, how we met and like where we were and where we are now, and just from day one, just you being so supportive and you being such an incredible person, helping me getting back into the aesthetics world. You know, I had different experiences in the different fields that I work in, and aesthetics, I kind of like stepped back because I had a bad taste in my mouth for quite a while, you know, with the industry and like the cattiness, and like I wanted to like, you know, really focus on my spiritual wellness and things of that sort, which was a really good journey and chapter for me, which
it's
continues.
A beautiful, absolutely, Ash. You are able to now create your own genre.
Now it's
that's like, important.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, it's pretty cool. I'm really grateful for the experiences that I had, that I have now, and that I will have, you know, and I just want to say, like, thank you for believing in me. Always. Thank you for never stop, and for encouraging me to keep moving forward, even when I was like, I don't know, you know, and just creating that platform. And like something that I always say, like something I say behind Jen's back all the time, is that she is one of those girls that really supports, one of those women's that really support other women in such a genuine way. And that is really hard to come by. That is really hard to come by, where it's like, you know, if Jen's in your corner, there is no like weird
You're gonna
energy.
hate me like, how much I'm in your corner, because I'm in there. I'm goal orientated. So if you can be a stranger, babe, and I'm a woman's woman. You know, I never had the honor to have a biological sister. However, I have so much sisters and beautiful women that if we were here, girl, we'd be in tears. If not popping champagne, like we're in tears, like, because we have the same soul.
It's the vision.
It's the vision.
It's that energy, that pureness. You know, it's that tapping into source, and, you know, going beyond all of these societal constraints and views on what we're supposed to be as women, and like as competition and this, that, and third. And it's like, it's beyond just gender. It's a societal thing. You know, if there was a man in the field too, that would be the same kind of situation. So it's like,
it's a mental illness.
It really is. And it's something that we're learning to find the antidote the more that we tune in to love ourselves and show that support for one another.
Absolutely.
And being vulnerable, being like, yo, like, I love what you do. You know, like, I love that, like, this is, like, yo, me and you could do the same thing, but no one's going to do it like you, and no one's going to do it like me.
And I say this with so much, like, emphasis, because it's like, girl, we can be here looking at the same moon, but how you see it is way different than what I'm seeing.
Yep.
And that, to me, is where the beauty lies.
Yeah.
That's the aesthetic of it. Because you have your own.
Yeah. Yeah. So shout out to you, shout out to us, and shout out to all of the other incredible human beings that have the same like mind. Yeah. You know, may we continue to move forward and support one another. I know sometimes it's really hard and difficult because with the lack of support, it can almost feel like you grow bitter because you're protecting, or you're going into your shell. I just want to encourage you and remind you that there are still other humans out there that want the best for you. Even though there are people that have the other intentions, like, don't focus on that. You know what I mean? There's always going to be an opposition, but it's up to you to focus on what you want to grow. Your focus grows whatever it is that you're looking at, you know? So keep that in mind, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, shout out to Kenny, always being the number one supporter of all the people and all the things, you know.
Yeah.
All of this made possible through Kenny being here and holding the space for us.
And bless us all. And, you know, you got my back, I got your back. Like I said, when you need rest, I'm up. When I need rest, you up. We move forward. It don't have to necessarily be about the same thing. You may want to all of a sudden become a boxer. I'm pro you, period. So, and what you're recognizing in me is really the beauty in you. And what you may seem like, okay, Genesis is pro people, is because of my own lack of not having that. Yep. So I'm going to give it.
And that's where it comes from. You know, that's where it comes from. You know what I mean? And I feel like right now is a time and a space where a lot of us that felt misunderstood or felt like we didn't fit in anywhere are coming together.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that for us, you know. So before we get off this podcast entirely, I have some cards here I wanted to pull for the energy of right now, and what we can surrender to, what we can look forward to. So if this resonates with you, stay tuned. If it doesn't, you can sign out, whatever feels right. Yeah. So I'm going to pray in a good way to connect with the energies that are meant to come out.
I definitely
cards in a good
need
way. Whoever is meant to tune into this reading, may it find you well.
It will always. That's just me. I'm seeing the cup half full for the rest of my life. I'm excited. Because we coming in hot.
All right. So I've been thinking about this deck a lot, so I'm going to start off with this one. In a good way. What is it that we are supposed to surrender to right now? What is it that us and those who are viewing and tuning in with us, what is it that we are supposed to surrender to at this time?
I'm like triggered. Surrender?
Well, surrender doesn't mean submit. Surrender means to let go of control.
Yes.
So surrender to the idea that you can fix someone. It is time for a relationship to shift. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to try to fix someone. Each person must be accountable for his or her own healing. So that can apply in many different places and spaces. Like if we're trying to constantly fix someone or create a platform where we're not just accepting of a person as they are, then we're creating the space for disappointment and also neglect to the person in their own process. So just, surrendering to that idea. It doesn't necessarily mean like, okay, surrender to the idea that you can fix someone. That doesn't mean that you are not, say if it's a relationship thing, it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be with them. If it's a friendship thing, it doesn't mean you're not supposed to be friends with them. If it's a work thing, it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to work there. It might mean that, but other perspective is maybe it's time for you to surrender to trying to control them, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're stepping away from them. It means that you're relinquishing your claw from them so that they can be themselves.
Dude, you abandon the view of it. Oof. I'm like, that's like the mojo of the day.
And that could go for anything that's like when you're in traffic, when you're waiting on a line and you're like, why are these people doing this? It's like surrendering to that because we can't control anyone else but ourselves. But if we're going to get ourselves stressed out about things, like it's so easy to.
And you can wake up the next day with the same feeling and you didn't pass that level. Just surrender the thought, the view. It was a moment. That's it. Move forward.
Right now is the time to practice self-compassion. See yourself with loving kindness. Acknowledge your growth as an empath and honor the person that you have become. Give yourself credit for all the things that you do. Give yourself flowers. In this, it's talking about, like, in the picture, it shows a person holding a lotus. Lotus grows from mud. Acknowledge the fact that you were in the mud and now you rise above that and you became this beautiful flower that bloomed, So what is it that we should focus on during this time? What is something that we should focus on? Give ourselves. Okay. Right now that there's something coming to completion, right? But it's only coming to completion the more that we are allowing ourselves to be disciplined and bring it to completion. It's not just coming to completion on its own where we have a heart, like a hand in it. 9s are coming up, right? 9s and purples. So completion, it's a time to really just go to yourself. It says rest and reconsider. That can look like before making a decision, just tapping in with yourself, not talking to anybody for an hour and just really seeing how you feel about something before actually moving forward. Right now, it is 6 planets in retrograde. We do want to remember that, just slow down, rest, reconsider. Don't go, you trust yourself. Everyone has a different process. If there's something that's coming up, it's something to be looked at. If you feel like there's action that needs to have a part of it, ask yourself why. And then if it still feels good, then, pursue it. We can't we can't stop our lives because of retrograde. I strongly recommend that we slow down, though, and just remember, like, don't park anywhere that, you're not supposed to park. Things are hectic. People are getting their
I almost
cars.
got towed yesterday.
That's crazy.
Like, right in front of my face.
Mm-hmm. My cousin had his car stolen the other day. Like, things are happening right now. So just be mindful. Remember to lock your doors, lock your car,
hide
keep
your
account
kids,
of things.
hide your wives.
I mean? And just, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something to note. So surrendering to control of trying to fix people and, apply that energy to yourself, and not necessarily the fix part, but just like the energy to yourself. Provide yourself with self-compassion and allow yourself to complete the things that you started by honoring yourself and putting that discipline, but also remember to rest. And it's okay if you don't want to actually do that. Realizing that you might be starting something and you don't actually want to do that, and that's okay too. So that's the energy of today and of whenever you're tuning in. And I hope that sits well with you.
It definitely did with me.
Thank you so much for coming on and for listening. Ash. Thank you for all co-creating this experience. This podcast is not only just us sitting here having conversation, because we have a podcast every time we meet.
True.
It's about you guys engaging and putting your energy towards listening. And, if you like the podcast, subscribe, maybe put 5 stars. Send to a friend.
Subscribe. Because we're coming in hot. And what you need to do is tap into this state of mind once again. And, why not do it with people who are also in that journey?
Mm-hmm. And there's always something to revisit. And the thing that I love about having guests on the show is that you can revisit this whenever you need to hear your own advice.
Hey, Jen, you go, girl.
So thank you. And I will see you next week. Stay tuned. And stay tuned to hear more about the podcast, the yard sale, and Renew Wellness. And all of the things that are to come. So,
thanks.
Bye.